Okay, so glasses need to come on. Better for the moment. Well, that's encouraging. Maybe this camera is dying. It just went from full battery to 2/3, so I'm going to watch it here while I'm doing my intro, and hopefully it doesn't go dead totally. So it seems like every time I try and do one of these gauntlet videos where I'm trying to show you something, for some reason it seems hurried and thrown together. That's probably what I'll go with, yeah. So I wanted to take a little more time today, because I actually do have time today, and kind of fix my last video on this thing. So I felt very rushed. I also had a camera that was dying. This one seems to be holding up, so we're good there. I had a camera that was dying. I had a really, really windy day. I actually came to Iowa and it's less windy than Minnesota. So Minnesota, take that. Tally that up on ways Iowa's better. Just kidding. Both of them have their positives and negatives. But take that. Anyways, so I wanted to take a couple steps back, explain some things that I will do when I'm sighting something in, and show you guys through the scope cam as well, because I think it's really good to have not only a visual here, but also a visual through the scope and see how I'm doing it as well. So without further ado, here we go. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is if your scope is mil or MOA. Now if it's mil, ignore the rest of this because it doesn't apply to you. But this scope that I have on it is a MOA scope, which means minute of angle. And I don't remember the story about it, but basically at 100 yards, you're almost, it's so close that it seems like they did guess and check and they said this is close enough and we're good with it. It's something like 1.07 MOA, or excuse me, 1.07 inches is 1 MOA at 100 yards. So everybody, of course, takes that, myself included, and slices that 0.07 off and turns it into 1 inch equals 100 yards, 2 inches at 200 yards, and so on and so forth. So for what we're going to be doing today with a pellet gun that's shooting inside of 100 yards, 1 MOA at 100 yards equals 1 inch. So we're going to be sighting this thing in at 10 yards. So if I was to go 10 clicks, that would equal 1 inch, because we're at 1/10 of the distance, therefore we have 1/10 of an MOA for every click that we have. Now, this scope says on its turrets, it says 1/4 MOA at 100 yards. So it's 1/4 of an inch. So at 10 yards, it would be, I don't want to do the math right now, but it's 1/10 of 1/4 of an inch. So that's what it is. So it's 1/40 of an inch. So if I move it 10 clicks, instead of, or excuse me, we'll do things evenly. Rather, if I had it moved it 8 clicks, rather than it being 2 inches, it would be 0.2 inches. So just move the decimal place 1 over. That's important. Now, we're going to get into shooting and we'll see how we do. Okay, so now we're at 10 yards. Of course, the wind has to pick up as soon as I start shooting here. Not worried about left or right at this distance. I'm more worried about you guys being able to hear me. So, get your gun set on something simple and steady. And go. Now we're smart. Okay, so actually, the zero didn't move much on this. I took it off, it's dry. But through the phone scope you can see that I am a little left and a little low. So now is that good part learning. So it looks to be a 1/4 inch low and a 1/4 inch left. So I'm going to do opposite to that. So a 1/4 inch. So if it was a 1/4 inch at 100 yards, I'd move it 1 click, but I'm 10 times smaller than that. So we'll do the math. I'm doing the math in my head and it's not working out. So if I was a 1/4 inch at 100 yards, it'd be 1 click, making it 10, so it'd be 10 clicks. I don't think it quite works out that way, but we're gonna go 4. 2, 3, 4. I kind of know this gun, and I kind of know that this scope is not perfect on, but we'll certainly see. And then the same thing, I'm gonna go up 4 clicks as well, and we'll take shot number 2. Here we go. So you can see I moved it about half as much as I needed to. So we're gonna go 4 and 4. Maybe I was wrong on this. So it needs to go 4 more right. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it also needs to go 4 more up. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so there's 4 and 4, so now we're at 8 and 8. All right, now if my math was correct and I believed my math, I'd go 2 more up. 1, 2, and I would go 2 more to the right. It's shocking when math actually works. And guess what? I blew the crap out of the bullseye. So, as far as it being 1/10 the distance, making 10 times the click, that actually all worked out with this scope. Let me get a little more frame. So that actually all worked out. So I went 10 clicks to the right and 10 clicks up for a 1/4 inch, and it nailed it right on the head. So sometimes you gotta believe in the math. I didn't think it'd actually be that much of an adjustment when I did it in my head. It's kind of why I was stumbling around it. But I moved it the first 4 clicks, and then I moved it the second 4 clicks, and I went, holy crap, this is actually gonna be perfect. It's gonna be 10 exact clicks up and 10 exact clicks to the right. And we hit it right on the head. I don't know if you can do any better than that. So let's go take a look at the target through that camera, because this camera might not have focused and caught it as well as I wanted to. So, see you downrange. Okay, so this is at 10 yards. You got to remember that. So hold up, we got to make an adjustment here to you guys so you can see stuff. So this is at 10 yards. Now, this might look like all one grouping, but we moved this scope 10 clicks in 2 directions. So this is shot number 1 right here. So 1/4 inch from the bullseye, both left and low. So what did I do? I said, well, that would mean I'd have to move 10 clicks to get it into the bullseye here. And I went, holy crap, that seems like a lot. So how about we go 4 clicks? So we went 4 clicks up and 4 clicks right, and it ended up in this hole here, about right here. And I said, no way. And so I moved it up another 4 clicks and 4 clicks, and that was 8 then. And I went, no way, this is gonna be literally 10 and 10. And I moved it 10 and 10, and that's this final shot here. Now, before you hop to conclusions, I am probably a smidgen off the bullseye. We're gonna mark that up to user error. Now, that's experiment number one. That's how to zero your rifle. The second thing that a lot of people do is they want to see how good their scope is. So they'll intentionally set it up off at a distance, and they'll go like 10 clicks up and 10 clicks right. Obviously it'd be like that and that, and then they'll see if they can return it to 0. So we're going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to go 20 clicks up and shoot, and then I'm going to go 20 clicks right and shoot. Then I'm going to go 20 clicks down and shoot, and I'm going to go 20 left and see if I'm really close to this hole here. So we'll see how that pans out for us. So this exercise isn't called anything, but I'm going to call it the square. But basically we're just tracking to see if this scope indeed does track. And what that means is, are the adjustments equal? So every time you hear it go click, is that an equal amount for the next click? So here we go. So 20 up brings us a little up, 20 over, a little over, 20 down brings us back to our same elevation as we started at, and then 20 left puts us in our same 0. So what's confusing to me is 20 up and 20 down seem to be, well, excuse me, so 20 up, 20 down, and 20 left all seem to be very, very concise and very, very consistent. What's weird is I have one, so 20 right seems to add another 5 or 6 clicks up and 5 or 6 clicks more to the right. But the weird thing is that this actually returned to 0, and you can see and you can hear me do the clicks. So I'm not sure if this is a flyer or what. We'll call this one a flyer, but 3 out of the 4 adjustments were perfect. So we'll call this a flyer, but that is very unusual. So I just wanted to touch on that. In case I didn't pull this shot, it's a flyer, but if I didn't pull this shot and it's this way, then we have, a blind variable that I'm missing somewhere. So interesting. Ooh, this is a good backdrop for all you plywood artists. This is not plywood, all you palette artists. This is a great backdrop. Does this look like someone's senior pictures, just up against a palette target? Anyways, so I just wanted to make a more comprehensive, that's the word, comprehensive video than my last one. My last one, like I said, felt very thrown together because it was. I had actually planned on going out and shooting this thing out to 100 yards, which I might try a little bit of today, so there might be 2 videos on this today. But I wanted to go out to 100 yards, and initially, and the day before when I had gone out there, I'd helped a young man sight in his 22, which he was struggling quite a bit. I could see that, and it took up probably an hour and a half of my range time, which that's okay. That's a hell of a lot of time, you're saying, when I did it here in a minute and a half. But I think we need to take those opportunities and look at them as opportunities to teach. Wow, that was a hard phrase to get out, but we're going to continue on. So we got to look at those things and say, yes, it took up a lot of my range time, but at the same time, now that young man can go on and sight in his own rifle whenever he needs to. So that's very powerful. And you want to say, well, how good did we do the rest of the day? So he took his 22 out, and he was breaking clay birds at 100 yards with it. We had a windy day, not unlike this one, but it was really, really good to see that knowledge that I use, somebody else finds very valuable, and it also can be applied to other people's ways of shooting. So both of those were very nice to see. And like I said before, now that young man can go out and he can sight in his own rifle anytime that he has to sight in a rifle. We sighted it in pretty much just like this, got very close to the targets, it works a lot better when you have two people and something is wildly off. This was only, you know, a half inch off, or excuse me, a quarter inch off in both directions. But if you're really struggling to sight something in, get closer to the target, use a large backdrop, and go from there. So, a little story, little advice, and hopefully a lesson learned. This is the same trip as the trout fishing videos that are hopefully coming out, and today was an overall successful day in both shooting and trout fishing. So take the wins when you can get them, and always remember them. Take care, guys.